Do y'all remember seeing those little French fruit tarts or tartlets in bakery cases all over the place? These are them. They are absolutely delicious. You can make them all different ways. I've made them with just fresh fruit and pastry cream, and everybody is dying over them. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do is make the pastry cream because this does need to be refrigerated for a couple hours. So I'm just combining milk and heavy cream in a small saucepan. I'm going to let that heat to a near boiling. And in the meantime, we'll go ahead and whisk together our sugar and cornstarch in a medium bowl. You don't want to do this too far in advance because the egg yolks can actually start to cook the sugar, and there will be little bits of egg yolks in the mixture. So do this right before the cream is ready to boil. So just whisk in your egg yolks until they're nice and smooth like this. And then we'll slowly pour the hot cream milk mixture into the egg yolks just to temper them a little bit, which is just bringing them up to the same temperature as the cream mixture is, so that we don't get little bits of egg yolks in there. And then I'm going to pour all of this back into the same saucepan, and then we'll get it over medium heat, whisking constantly until it thickens. And it's going to go a little slower than this. I've just sped it up for the sake of the video, but it takes about 5 minutes or so. And it will be nice and thick like this. Once it starts bubbling, continue whisking for 1 minute, and that will activate the cornstarch and make it so it won't get weepy later. So pour this back into the same bowl. I have a sieve set over that same bowl. You don't have to worry about any of the egg mixture that's still left in the bowl being uncooked, because the heat from this will take care of that. And I like to put mine through a sieve. You don't have to, but just in case any bits of egg get a little cooked in the saucepan, you kind of prevent that from going through your nice smooth pastry cream. And then we're going to add butter. This is just a small amount of butter and some vanilla. I'm using my homemade vanilla extract with the seeds in it. You can also use vanilla bean paste, a whole vanilla bean split, and the vanilla seeds, the seeds taken out, whatever you want to do. And then we like to put plastic wrap right on the surface of this because it will prevent a skin from forming. And then we get this into the fridge for at least 2 hours, but you can make this up to 3 days in advance. And it is so good for so many other applications too, like cream puffs, eclairs, cake filling, you name it. This is just a great recipe to have in your arsenal of recipes. And it's so good, you could just eat it with a spoon. So get that in the fridge, and we'll go ahead and make the pastry shells, the tart shell dough. And this is gluten-free all-purpose flour blend, along with some powdered sugar and almond flour. And I'm just going to whisk this up quickly with a fork. And then I'm going to go in with my hands and add the really cold slices or cubes of butter. This is nearly frozen butter. And the reason I'm doing it this way is I want to be able to roll this out as quickly as possible. And I don't want to have to wait a couple hours for this dough to get nice and chilled. So I'm just breaking it up with my fingers and smushing it between my hands until it's nice and like that pebbly consistency. And then we'll add 1 whole egg, and you can still continue to use your hands if you want to. You don't have to. You can use the fork or whatever. And then just dump this out on an unfloured surface and knead it for a little bit until it comes together into a nice round dough, smooth dough. Now, when I was doing this, the day that I was filming this, my kitchen happened to be like, it was so hot out. It was like 85 degrees, and no matter how much I tried to keep everything cold, it was still getting hot. So I went ahead and wrapped it up, put it in plastic, and put it in the fridge for a good 15 minutes or so. I didn't want to go too longer than that because I didn't want it to be then too hard to roll out. So 15 minutes, and then I checked it, and it was pretty good at that point. So now I'm going to roll it between two silicone mats. If you don't have these, you can use parchment. I like the silicone because it tends not to stick, and then you don't have to use extra flour. So we just roll this to a pretty thin, it's about between 1/4 of an inch, or maybe I'd say between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. So it's pretty thin. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and slide it onto a baking sheet and get it in my freezer for like 10 minutes because, again, my kitchen is very warm today. So these are the tart rings that I got, and I'll leave a link for those below. I got them on Amazon. They are so great, you guys, because it allows you to not have to blind bake these pastry shells. And also this mat, it is perforated. Same thing. I got it on Amazon. I'll leave a link. It is great. So now once this is out of the freezer and it's nice and stiff, although not too stiff, this recipe for pastry tart shells really depends on temperature. So if it's too stiff, the stuff could break, especially the sides. If it's too loose, then the sides won't hold up. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just taking the actual tart shell and cutting out bottoms. And then I'm going to go and cut out some of the strips. I'm not really measuring per se. I'm just making strips. And I'm using the straight edge to get nice straight edges. However, you can, if you have a little bit extra, you can always cut it off at the end, and I'll show you what I'm talking about there. So use an offset spatula to pick these up, and you can either lay them onto your surface and then do it like I'm doing it here, put the tart shell over it, or you can lay your tart shell down or mold down and then plop the bottom right in. Now, it was getting a little warm again, so I had to put this back in the freezer again before I did the sides. And you'll see, like the sides, you want them bendy, but you don't want them totally stiff, and you also don't want them so loose and soft that it'll be hard to mold them in. I'm just taking my little paring knife and I'm cutting it off here to get it nice and precise. And then I'm going to just go around the whole thing and kind of press gently to adhere it to the sides. And with those perforations in there, it'll allow for air to get in there, and you do not have to put anything in these tart shells. No lining them with parchment or foil or whatever. No getting beans or rice or anything like that. It is so great. So now we're going to get these in the freezer for 30 minutes. And then you can take your paring knife and go around the edges on the top and just cut off any excess. And that's why that nice flat edge is right there. And it's absolutely perfect. So go around all of them like that. And then we're going to get them into a 320-degree Fahrenheit oven and bake them for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we will remove them and take the tart shell off. So these are baked for 15 to 20. I'm removing the tart shells carefully because they are hot. And then I'll put them back in the oven for another 5 minutes. And then you have your tart shells. You can fill these with all kinds of things. Doesn't have to be pastry cream. You can do curds and just ganaches, caramels, whatever you want to do. These are so wonderful, you guys. I'm going to fill them now with the pastry cream and some fresh fruit and some glaze and you will die over these. Your mom will think you spent forever, and it really, I mean, this is a great thing for Mother's Day. So let's assemble now. These are so easy to assemble. This is the easiest part, although in my opinion, it's all easy. It's just a matter of getting it all in steps, and you can do it all in advance up to this point. So we start by adding the pastry cream to the shells, and I have whisked my pastry cream from the fridge just to loosen it up because it is quite a stiff pastry cream. That's really what you want for these so it doesn't run everywhere. I like my pastry cream nice and stiff. So we can set the rest aside, and I've cut up some fruit. These are the fruits that I'm using for this particular tart, but there's so many options you can use, and just have fun with it and decorate it as you would like. So now for the glaze, which it's not complete without the glaze. This is a very easy glaze to make. We just add water to a very small saucepan, and I'm adding potato starch mixed with water and a little bit of sugar, and I'm going to whisk this over medium heat until it starts coming to a boil, whisking constantly and adding just a little bit of cinnamon. You can also substitute like some of the water with fruit juice if you'd rather. And this just gets nice and thick and perfect as a nice clear glaze. I chose this mainly because I didn't have any apricot jam or jelly or anything like that in my house, and I did not want to go to the store. And I found this to be a perfect alternative, and I probably will use this from now on for any kind of glazing fruits purpose. It really is a great glaze. And that is it. That's all there is to these tarts. I've cut one open to show just how perfect they are. They hold up. You can just, eat it in your hand. You don't have to like cut it up or anything. It is just fabulous, you guys. Try to make these for your mom. She really would appreciate it. I hope you enjoy.